Welcome everyone to the Tata Steel Chess India Blitz. On the left side of your screen, we have the GOAT himself, Magnus Carlsen. Facing him is one of India's strongest grandmasters, S.L. Narayanan, who is rated 2645. Magnus, playing with the white pieces, will surely be aiming for a win. This is going to be an exciting battle. Magnus opens with 1 to e4. We get the Sicilian. Knight develops e6 played. Will Magnus go for the open Sicilian? Or maybe the c3 variation? He could also play nc3, but Magnus is pausing. He's taking his time. He's not rushing his moves. Maybe he's thinking about something deeper. What exactly does he want to do? Wow, he goes bishop to d3. That's a rare move. He places his bishop in front of the pawn, blocking the d-pawn. Knight develops quickly. Magnus castles. Maybe he wants to go c3, then bishop c2, followed by d4 in the center. But this is definitely not a commonly played idea. You can see Narayanan now deep in thought. Maybe he knows the position, or maybe he's out of preparation already. What can black do here? A standard move might be d5, maybe a6, nf6, or even chutney 7. Those are all reasonable options. But look at the time he's investing here, and then he plays g5. Wow! Bishop b5, and then g4. Looks like both players were prepared for this, just weighing whether to enter this sharp line. Now check out these pawns. Narayanan is saying, Magnus, you might be the GOAT, you might be world number 1, but I'm not afraid. I'm going all in. These advanced pawns look very dangerous. Knight comes to f6, attacking the e4 pawn. You can't push it because knight takes pawn. So Magnus plays d3, a slightly passive move, but it opens the way for the bishop to come to g5. The other knight will develop soon, and maybe one day he'll break with f3, opening the f-file for the rook. d5, a strong central thrust by Narayanan. Queen e2, bishop develops to e7. Now, should Magnus push e5 to kick the knight away? That's an idea. He's evaluating the position. He decides not to go for it. Instead, plays bishop g5, pinning the knight. Maybe there are some tactics like takes, and then e5, e5, or xd5, since the queen is eyeing the king diagonally. Narayanan responds with rook g8, going after the bishop. Bishop h4 is one idea, or Magnus could capture on f6. But instead, he plays the best move, f4 defending the bishop. If you take on passant, Magnus recaptures with the knight, still defending the bishop. This is the kind of positional brilliance that makes him a genius. Just 10 moves in, and Magnus has crafted a beautiful position from an offbeat setup. His understanding is just next level. The pin is still in place, and black's position is getting uncomfortable. Threats like xd5 are coming. Also, f5 could follow, lots of problems for black. Narayanan captures on e4, but Magnus doesn't recapture immediately. He's thinking, should he take it now or delay? He decides to first take on c6, pawn recaptures, and then he takes on e4. Look at this. White has a beautiful pawn structure. Black's pawns are messy. Narayanan pushes c4, trying to activate his pieces. But if white captures, there's queen b6 plus, and then bishop a6, and you lose material. Magnus develops his knight instead, attacking the pawn. He avoids giving up the dark-squared bishop to keep the pressure from the pin. Queen b6 plus, king slides to h1. Narayanan might want to defend the c4 pawn with bishop a6. Yes, he plays it, but Magnus doesn't take the pawn. If he captures, black takes back, and the bishop becomes active. So instead, Magnus brings his rook to the center. 1 minute 30 seconds for Magnus, 1 minute for Narayanan. Narayanan checks the clock, getting a bit alert now. Is b2 really hanging? Maybe, maybe not. If knight to c2 happens, then after taking rook b1, and black loses a rook. Magnus chooses instead to capture on c4. Now best is to take with the queen, then play a queen b5, offering a trade, because otherwise the rook on front 1 hangs. You'll be a pawn down. Not great against Magnus, but it's the best option. Narayanan plays queen c5, attacking the knight. Magnus defends, takes, recaptures. White's structure is slightly damaged, but the real issue for black is the king's safety. Threats like e5, knight d3, they're coming. Narayanan plays knight d7. Best move here, knight to d3, hitting the queen. Then maybe knight b4, or just capture on e7. White's clearly better. Magnus is thinking, still has a minute on the clock, and whoa, he sacrifices his rook. A blunder. A huge mistake by Magnus. Narayanan is back in the game. Now it's important to play queen a3 to hold the bishop. But instead, he blunders with knight e5 plus. Narayanan didn't even use much time. He had 25 seconds. That's a critical error. If he plays king c7, he loses the bishop. If he goes king e8, then Magnus captures on e7, followed by knight c6, a massive fork. And that's it. He resigns. What a moment. Let's rewind a bit. Magnus sacrificed his rook on d7. Narayanan took with the king. Magnus followed with knight d3. And at that point, the right move was queen a3, defending the bishop. If Magnus checks, black can go to c7, defend the pawn and bishop. He would have been completely fine, but instead, Narayanan blundered, and Magnus converted the win.